Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Aman Bashir, and I am the Senior Education USA Advisor at the Lahore office. Can everybody hear me? Chat me if you guys can just type. Sharbana, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. So I want to make sure the audience can also hear us. One second.
I think they should be able to.
Okay, I just enabled attendees can chat. Yes, perfect. Got it. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Aman Bashir, and I'm the Senior Education USA Advisor and the Assistant Manager for the Lahore office. Just going to give you guys a brief introduction on Education USA and the 5 steps to US study. What is Education USA at USCFP? We have 3 advising centers. One is in Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad. I'm from the Lahore office. I also have my colleague here online. If you can also introduce yourself, Shermano.
Yes, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Shravana. I recently joined the Lahore office as an Education USA advisor. Prior to that, I did my Fulbright at the George Washington University, where I pursued my master's in international development studies. So feel free to ask any questions that you might have about the Fulbright program or about pursuing graduate studies in the US, and we'll be able to answer the questions at the end. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, we have 3 advisor centers in Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad. So if you have any friends or family members who might be interested in headed to the US, you can let them know about Education USA and its services. So our job is to promote US education in Pakistan. Um, Secondly, we have the Fulbright Scholarship, which is our flagship scholarship. But this is something for master's and PhD students. Right now, the master's and PhD Fulbright application is has been announced. And if you have any friends or family members who want to apply, they can go on our website, uscfp.org, and they can apply there. So, what is Education USA? Yeah. We're part of the US State Department. Our job as an advisor is to provide an advisee such as yourself with accurate, current, and comprehensive information. A lot of the students they keep asking us, can you name us specific universities? This is our major, so that we can apply to these universities. But unfortunately, that's not how this works. Together, we sit down and we figure out what the best fit university for you will be, because every student's need is different. I can give you my own personal example. I went to Penn State back in 2007. My family's requirement was that it needs to be somewhere in Pennsylvania, near to where my sister's house is. So somebody's restriction could be maybe their family lives in Texas or maybe New York. Restriction could be based on anything, even weather. That is a restriction. Zip codes are a restriction. So everybody's best fit university is completely different. And that is what we are here to help figure out. There's various services that we give online, as well as in person, such as the session that we're having right now. It's a virtual session. We do different workshops since right now the Fulbright has been announced, so we're also doing sessions on the GRE. It's analytical and the other portion for math and English. We also have a library, lots of books, academic books that you might want to go through, and also we do one-on-one advising for students such as yourself, where we sit down and figure out where should you be applying. So there are different Lincoln corners also around Punjab. I just wanted you guys to know that in Lahore we have um, one Lincoln Corner at the Qadim Library. Rest are in Faisalabad, Sargodha, Vihari, Multan. So if you live there and you're watching us from there, you can visit one of those Lincoln Corners. All right, so I'm just gonna ask the audience a couple of questions. So since you're here trying to figure out how to apply to the US, why apply to the US, why do you want to study in the US? If we can get a couple of questions for that, couple of answers, sorry, to this question. there must always be a reason, right? When you apply, like say, for example, when you apply either for a bachelor's or a master's, there has to be a reason, whether you want some sort of mobility in your career, in your academics. So why apply to the US? Since you're attending, if you just put it in the chat box, um, then we'll come back to this slide after you guys answer some of those questions. Um, So 5 steps to US study. We've divided into 5 portions. Number one being researching your options, and that's what we will look at first. And then it's financing your studies, completing the application, applying for your visa, and then there's a pre-departure orientation at the end. So let's go with the number one option, which is researching your options. There's different types of universities in the US, universities and colleges. Um, There's 2 year community colleges, there's 4 years private institutions, and there's public institutions. Um, which one should you apply to? There's about 4,500 different accredited universities in the US. Figuring out what your goal is, what your budget is, that is how we can figure out, all right, where should we be applying? As I mentioned earlier, maybe location is something that might restrict you from applying to certain universities. So these are all things that you need to know, that you need to have a discussion with your family before we start researching, right? Um, the community colleges are usually tend to be a bit cheaper, and we'll see some of the pricing also as we progress in this presentation. Community colleges tend to be a bit cheaper because they're only 2 years. But then you have to make sure that you're also in an articulation agreement of that community college is also in an articulation agreement with a 4 year private or public institution, because it's called the 2+2 program. So you go for 2 years to community college, you end up saving a ton of money, and then you end up either in a private institution or a public institution. And depending on the articulation agreement, on your essay, on your CGPA, because obviously you need to have certain CGPA to transfer from one school to another, you may or may not be eligible for some institutional aid as well. So knowing where you want to study, also extremely important. The type of institution. Number two, financing your studies. You should definitely have a very serious conversation with your parents, or whoever is going to be funding your education, that what the total cost could potentially be. Um, Once we shortlist a couple of universities, ideally between 8 to 10, maybe you can even shortlist up to 20 universities, and then we can apply to maybe 8 or 10. That would be the most ideal position, in my opinion. Um, Yeah, so knowing how much you will be spending on your education is extremely important, and knowing who your resources are going to be. There's 3 types of aids is essentially. A need blind essentially means that whatever money that you're asking for, the university is going to foot the bill. But the two real ones that most of the universities have to offer, or at least majority offer need-based aid, is need-based, and then there's merit-based. Merit-based is pretty self-explanatory. Merit being, say, the university says that we need you to have like a 1450 on your SAT, and we'll give you a tuition waiver. So that would be an example of a merit-based aid. Need-based would be based on the fact that you submit some form of a student, like a ISFA, International Student Financial Aid form, or the CSS profile, the college board. What is CSS? It's CSS, the College Board something service profile. Essentially, what happens in that profile is that the universities, they're looking at all your parents' tax returns. They're looking at what kind of expenses you're doing annually. How many siblings do you have? Maybe how many cars do you have? What kind of electricity or gas bills did you have the previous year? So they're looking at everything. That is declared on your parents' tax returns, and then determining what kind of aid would you be eligible for. So that is something that a lot of the students in Pakistan are applying for through the CSS profile. Um, Also, in the CSS profile, um, there's a question which says specifically um, that what will be your annual parental contribution. So this is also a question you need to be asking your parents. How much can they afford to spend on you? And make sure that you fill this form out in Pak rupees, since we live in Pakistan. Um, but you need to have this number, whether it's 5,000 rupees or 5 lakh rupees or 50 lakh rupees. You need to know this number so you can put that information into the system. All right. As I mentioned, community colleges can be a bit cheaper. And then, of course, public institutions are a bit cheaper, uh, but they don't give as much need-based or even merit-based aid to international students. Whereas private schools, even though they might look a bit more expensive, uh, they have a lot more aid to give to students. So, which is why we tell students that they should be looking at private schools as an international student because they have the most amount of aid to give to students. All right, admissions timelines. So, if you are looking to go abroad next year, like 2027, then starting at least like September, like August or September. So then go back 14 months from that, and that would bring you probably to what, May, June, July, probably July of 2026. So that is maximum by when you should start your process. Um, Ideally, if you can start in earlier in the summer, like May, June, I think that'd be even better. Give yourself time. The application process is not as easy as one would assume. You need to write your essays, you need to collect letters of recommendation from your professors, and there's a whole bunch of different stuff that is required on the Common App. So you just make sure that you start a bit earlier. A couple of deadlines we just wanted to share with you. Um, One of the most important ones that I would say is the early decision deadline, which is November 1st. Um, I earlier talked about need-based aid. Um, and the reason is because majority of the need-based aid through the CSS profile comes from the early decision deadlines. Regular decisions are January 1st, and then there's early action also. There's different types of early decisions and restrictive early actions, and you learn more about this once you start shortlisting universities and actually going through the process. But know that I recommend all of my students to uh, submit their early decisions by November 1st. They should have at least one university that they feel passionate about to say that, all right, if they give me everything, I will go there. And when I say everything, that means that packet that you have asked for. Like say for remember I spoke about the parental contributions. So if you wrote that I can only afford to spend 5 lakh rupees a year, and if the university doesn't give you that, then it won't be binding because early decisions are usually binding. Um, or even restrictive early actions could be potentially binding if the university says it. But for the most part, early decisions are the ones that are binding. So just make sure that you know these deadlines, that you have a university shortlisted, and that you also have a good probability of getting accepted in the university as well. I understand there's a lot of ivy fever in Pakistan, but one should know that this is a very good way to get in early into a university. Uh, so just make sure that you decide wisely where to apply because it's a very important decision. The decisions come out for early decision. The deadline is November 1st, and then for the most part, their admission decisions come out by December 15th to the 20th. So you will know well in advance from the actual deadlines of regular decision that have you been accepted to a good university in your Right. SAT and the Common App. So SAT is the exam that a lot of students I would highly recommend that they take. It gives the university an idea of where you stand as far as test taking is concerned. Um, the problem is that the more funding that you ask for, the more they're going to start looking at your application and they're going to start asking you questions as to why should they grant you all this money, right? So the Common App is an application through which you can apply to 20 different schools and universities. So once you're done shortlisting universities, you add them into their dashboard and then start filling out whatever questions that they have, including the essay or any supplemental questions that they might have. So Yeah, so as I was saying, uh, the moment you start asking for more funds, the more scrutiny starts happening with your application by the university. Uh, they're going to start asking you questions like, what is your SAT score? And what is a good competitive SAT score? I think a good competitive SAT score probably might be around at least like a 1450 or a 1480, maybe. Yeah. Or even a 1500, it depends from the university to university and student to student. Depends what kind of major you have. Because we're looking at which side score should be a bit better. But overall, I think you should be scoring at least like a 1450, 1460 minimum. Because a lot of the schools that are competitive schools, because you need to realize we're not just competing against people in Pakistan. Each university has about 15 to maybe 20% of international students. And in those 20%, Pakistani students are going to be probably less than 0.5%, right? So imagine you're probably not even 0.5, maybe less than 0.1. So like imagine now you're competing for 15% of the pool in which Pakistanis are even less, right? So it becomes very competitive because your application is also being weighed against people from the same region, um, maybe the same continent, sometimes same country. So the competition is going to be severe. So they're going to start asking you, what do you bring to the table, right? Um, One of the objectives that these universities are looking for is they're not really looking for any returns, but the major return that they're looking for is how will the student, once they graduate, give back to the university, right? And obviously, if you're a good, successful student, somebody who doesn't need too much oversight, somebody who can get the job done essentially is more likely to get it. So just make sure that you have good grades in your O levels as well as A levels, especially your internals, because those matter a lot. And that you have good SAT scores, something that you can show to the admissions committee that you have done, that you're consistent, right? Because consistency is going to get you in. Oh, sorry, let me go back. Uh, Talked about the common advice. Okay, perfect. All right. So we don't directly deal with student visas, but what we do is that we invite visa officers from the embassy or the consulate, depending on the city, Lahore, Karachi, or Islamabad, and they come and give a, a very similar session like I am doing right now. But if you have any questions, obviously feel free to ask us. Our email is going to be at the end of this presentation. So feel free to send us an email. All right. Finally, what we do is the students who are eventually headed to the US, whether they're on F1 visas like a student visa or a J1 visa, we send them an invite for all the main three cities, Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, and we ask them. It was like a 2 hour session. We invite Fulbright alumni as well. We have sessions on campus life, cultural shock. We do travel advice. So there's different things that we do. That we invite students in for. So that would be the pre-departure orientation. It's like free giveaways, like a fun night. All right, this is our registration link, educationusa.pk/register. That's the email, at educationusa.org if you have any questions that you would like answered. Um, and if you have any questions right now, you can just put them in the inbox, sorry, in the chat box, and I can answer those for you. Somebody asked, Lincoln Corners in Punjab. Yes. So Lincoln Corners are actually a great resource. One second, let's go back. There you go. Lincoln Corners are actually quite a great resource. They have 3D printers. They have, you can get, if you go to a Lincoln Corner, all the services are free of cost, by the way, including Education USA's and the Lincoln Corners in Punjab. All you have to do is go and register with them. You can get access to, um, what is it, JSTOR. Um, there's a couple of different things. They have like a very extensive library. They do different sessions on coding, tech women. There's a couple of stuff that they do. You would have to go on their website, Lincoln Corners Pakistan, and then you'd have a better idea of what kind of services that they have to offer. But these are just a few that I just mentioned. Um, okay. No, there is one in Karachi. So since I am from the Punjab sector, I only mentioned the Punjab linking corners. So there's one in I think Jamshoro, there's one in Karachi, there's a couple in Islamabad and Pindi, I believe. So you just have to go on the linking corner website and then you can see where it is in Karachi. Since I'm not from the region, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe somebody can search here or and they can let us know where the Lincoln Corner is in Karachi. All right. Any other questions from me? Anybody?
So just to chime in, the Lincoln Corner in Karachi is actually in the cantonment area, if anybody is familiar with that area.
Oh, fantastic.
On
Thank you
the
for that,
left.
Nirvana. Which university is it in? Or maybe a library?
That I don't know. I think you can see when you go on the website,
Okay,
and you
perfect.
should be able to see the services there. Yep.
Thank you. All right. Ukasha asks us, what if the internal grades are bad in some subjects? Would that leave a bad impression? The good thing about the US university application process is that it's a holistic application process. And holistic means that they're looking at everything. As long as you can justify why the internal grades were bad, that there was actual reason behind it, you should be okay. Uh, they're looking at all the different things, right? They're looking at your grades, they're looking at your recommendation letters, they're looking at your essay, they're looking at your supplemental essays if you had any, they're looking at what kind of extracurricular activities you have. One of the things that I would recommend is for extracurriculars is that if you can start as early as you can, but if you have any siblings younger, you got to make them start a bit earlier. Because all these universities know that these students, they come into A levels and that's when all these activities start. Um, Not even A levels actually. Whenever they come to A2 is when these activities start. So if you can start something by the time your O levels ends from that summer or even earlier, if there's any younger audience here, that would be better because you need to show consistency to these university admission people, right? These admission committee officers. They want to see consistency. They want to see what have you done outside of the classroom. Uh, in your field of interest as well. So if you can do any research work with a professor or anybody for that matter, that would definitely show them that you are a self-starter. You can do something on your own. You can find stuff on your own, right? And this is all going to show consistency. And obviously, top that off with perhaps good grades, maybe some bad grades, but maybe a good SAT score could outweigh that. Um, so you just need to show them the admissions committee that um, you can be consistent. So consistency is key, basically. I hope that answers your question. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily going to leave a bad impression as long as you can um, somehow fix that by being good at something else, right? But some bad grades are okay. You can't really have all bad grades, you know, because as I said, these universities uh, they are looking at students who are consistent, right? It would be impossible for them to grant like full funding to somebody who has been consistently getting C's, right? I hope that makes sense. All right, I'm in A2 and I'll have to take a gap here to apply to the University of the US. I think USU. So Khadija asks if she's going to take a gap here and if there's any universities open in this period. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of universities for rolling admissions. Recently, there were 16 universities that came to Pakistan for the Pakistan tour. If you just go on our website, educationusa.org, educationusa.pk / US University Fair. Was it US University? Give me one second. US University Fair, yeah. So educationusa.pk / US University Fair. There's a list of universities there which you can um, which you can check out. They're actively looking to recruit Pakistani students right now. So yes, uh, but those are just 16. There's plenty more. You would have to look them up online. Um, Big Future is a search tool by a college board. Big Future. You just Google that. This tool will come up, and you can search universities that way. And I pasted the link also, the educationusa.pk/US University Fair in the chat box. You can go there and you can see the university names. All right. Um, any other questions? By the way, we have another session, the undergraduate college search, coming up on April 5th, same time, 2 to 3 p.m. So if you guys want to join that, well, some of the questions I can answer there as well. Um, we'll do a presentation on how to do a college search. We'll talk about some funding as well. If that is something that interests you, you can feel free to join us. All right, any other questions? Do our 1A levels need to be approved by the HEC? No, because are you talking about uh, for like a master's or undergrad? But regardless, initially, whenever you're submitting your that is for undergrad, initially, usually whenever you're submitting your transcripts, most universities aren't really looking for accredited, um, for was for transcripts that have been approved by the AGC or even WES or these other companies. They're okay with the unofficial ones, and then once they give you an admission, they will ask you for the official ones. But initially, you don't have to really worry about it, and especially not with undergraduate admissions because for O levels and A levels, A1 grades are going to be, and the internal ones are all going to be uploaded by your counselor on the Common App. So you won't be able to upload your grades anyways. Somebody else is doing it on your behalf, which is your school counselor. Right. Any other questions? Let's go on the last slide so I can at least. Oops. Right. So if you guys have any questions, you can email us at lahore@educationusa.org. Uh, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. My name is Aman Bashir again, my colleague. We're both with you, Shirbanu. We're both here for the Lahore office if anyone needs any assistance. I think we don't have any more questions coming in. So I think we can wrap it up, I guess. Any thoughts, Shirbanu, if you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, feel free to email us, everybody, at lahore@educationusa.org, and we'll respond to your queries there. We also have free advising sessions in person, like frequently. We have one or two in April, I believe. So you should be able to see our upcoming events, which sort of contain links of our virtual events like this one today, and also in-person sessions. We usually have more virtual sessions than in-person ones, but regardless, just feel free to go on our website and look up the events and register for whatever interests you. So yeah, that's all that I'd like to add. And I think we have another question.
Yeah, if I'm going for an engineering major, is research more important? Um, I mean, as I mentioned, the admissions committee is looking for something that you're doing outside of the classroom. And by the way, obviously, it'll help your cause if it's in your field of interest, whatever you're doing outside of the classroom. But even if it's not, that's okay. As long as the committee can see that you are a self-starter, that's all they care about. Obviously, if there is some research that you have done, and when I say research, obviously they're not expecting you to do like some crazy amounts of stuff. They know that you are 17, 18 years old, um, that you will be associated with the professor. So it will be the work of the professor. It's just that a lot of these research papers that students do tend to write, they're just papers for the most part, right? So, um, oh, one second, sorry. Sorry, I'm just pasting these links again. I think they were not shared for everybody. Now I think they are. Yeah, thank you for that, Shivano. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. That is research important if you're studying for engineering major. Um, it's not the most important thing, but definitely if you have it, you'll have a higher chance of getting accepted with a good amount of weight, that is. Thing is, getting an admission in the US is not that difficult. Right? There's 4,500 universities. One can find a place where where you will be admitted. The problem is how do you afford it, right? Affordability is the biggest issue that we have, and figuring out where to apply, which forms to fill out. That is where we will assist you um, at Education USA. Right. Thank you everybody for being here. If you have any more questions, we're happy to answer them. You can send us an email because the questions aren't really coming in from in the chat now. So send us an email and more than happy to help you out. Really appreciate it for appreciate you guys taking out the time and listening to us. Thank you. Bye bye.